Mother, are you sure about your decision? Ellie asked as she watched her mother go through her wardrobe while she lay on her mother's bed. As her mother placed the dress in front of her and viewed herself in the mirror, Alexonia said, "When I saw what he was capable of, I understood that this was the path I would take." She tossed the dress she was holding to the floor on top of an overgrowing pile of clothing. Grabbing another dress, she continued, "My daughter, there are certain things you will understand as you grow older. Sometimes, when both your mind and body reach the same conclusion, you must cast aside any common sense and chase after a bigger purpose." Contemplating the words that her mother spoke to her, Ellie sighed and said, "Whatever you decide, I'll support you." Looking back at her mother said, "You and your siblings will need to step up and listen to the advisors as all of you begin your training. The process will be long and difficult, but being a leader is often a difficult process." "I understand. All of us will work hard to bring honor to the both of you," Ellie reassured her mother. "This is the one," Alexonia declared as she looked at the dress. "Mother, I think I may have misunderstood how dirty your mind is," Ellie stated as she tried to wrap her mind around how wrong her image of her mother was. Han sat in a chair in front of one of the many mini restaurants in each of the districts. For those who didn't want to go to the shopping district, he made it easy for people to grab a quick bite to eat. Next to the chair was a small table that had a teacup and saucer. Han added several more sugar cubes into the tea and used the provided teaspoon to mix in the sugar, making sure not to allow the spoon to scrape the bottom or hit the sides. Bringing the cup to his lips and enjoying the taste of the sweetened tea, Han eyed the orderly group of guards, maids, and his creations. They stood in front of the gate that led towards the Elven Kingdom. The golem assigned to the gateway moved towards the door and opened it. A crowd gathered around the guards and maids to see what was happening. Everyone was very excited about the sudden event that came with no announcements, aside from word of mouth about the ladies of Felicitas, his creations, leaving the stronghold with a formation of guards and maids. Inside the city, his creations were treated like royalty and were loved by the people. He could hear cheers for each of his creations, many of them from women and girls who asked for an autograph on a favorite store item of his creations on them. He often watched how his creations interacted with the residents of the city, enjoying how they greeted the people and asked how they were doing. Even Annaculus and Eurasia were friendly, inquiring about how people were faring. Sometimes the way they acted coldly towards humans made his heart ache, but they seemed to be caring towards those inside Felicitas. As the door opened, Han heard a loud cheer. There was movement as the guards made room through the crowd. With the group clearing, Han could see his guests, Alexonia and Ellie, with their attendants. Next to Ellie was Celestra, who whispered into her ear and caused Ellie to look over to where he was sitting. Seeing him enjoy a cup of tea, Ellie gave a weird look and whispered to Celestra, who giggled. He felt himself chuckle at the way Celestra got along with Ellie. There was little doubt that she was commenting on how Han didn't care for those in the city to know that he was the master. For him, having people treat him like a king wasn't something he was interested in. Being able to walk around and casually talk with the residents was more enjoyable to him. A woman's mature voice asked from behind, "What is the great lord planning about now?" "I was thinking about how I enjoyed watching those I care about living in a peaceful environment," he said and turned to the side of the chair. "Are you sure you have the time to snoop into other people's lives, Hannah?" He grinned at her. Hannah leaned against the doorframe and stared out into the city. "The only reason why I'm able to have so much time to pry is thanks to the master of the city, who does not like anyone to know of his status. She turned and started to head back into the restaurant. "You make me sound like some kind of hero out of a light novel." Han slightly shook his head. "I guess I should get ready to welcome my guests," he sighed as he finished the remainder of his tea. Without a word, he shifted from the cafe to his throne room. After appearing on his throne, the twin doors opened and his creations, maids, and guests came walking in. In front of the procession, Helania walked in front of the group and stopped several feet away from him. With his creations behind her, Helania knelt in front of him. In a reverent voice, Helania said, "Master, the Elven Queen and her group have arrived to meet you." Alexonia and Ellie approached him and kneeled. Han felt one of his eyebrows lift up in confusion at the scenario, his confusion evident on his face. Both of them appeared in outfits different from what he had last seen. While Ellie had worn something which looked formal and appropriate for a dignitary, Alexonia was wearing a dress that split down the front and allowed a partial glimpse of her breasts. Noticing his confusion, Alexonia said, "With your help, my kingdom was able to survive 2 catastrophes, the invasion of the demon army and the overflow. Before coming here, I learned that the shield you provided had blocked the overflow. The placement of the shield is far enough away from our major trading cities, allowing the residents to have a peace of mind instead of being terrified. With how the demon army had killed off so many of our men, we would not have had the numbers to defend against the overflow as we had in the past. Those who witnessed the overflow had told me that the numbers were several times higher than in the past, guaranteeing our doom if not for your grace. The gates have also helped with the transportation of goods from the edges of the kingdom to the capital," Ellie added to what her mother said. "With your assistance, I knew what needed to be done and talked to my advisors. The Elven Kingdom will become a vassal nation to the city of Felicitas," Alexonia stated, surprising Han with the revelation. To become vassals to Felicitas is a very high honor and carries a great responsibility. "I assume you have prepared yourself before stating such things?" Helania stirred and turned to face Alexonia. "We understand what would be required of us, so as the ruler of the Elven Kingdom, I pledge myself to my new master," Alexonia calmly stated as she looked directly at Han, her face showing how serious she was on the matter. Han stood and slowly walked towards Alexonia. He looked into her eyes and tried to understand what her rationale was for placing her people under his control. A part of him wondered if this was natural, considering he helped provide security and stability to a nation that was desperately trying to hold on to survival against a force that saw them as beneath them. When he was directly in front of Alexonia, he continued to look at her. He first looked at her feet, slowly looking up to her shapely legs, her slender waist, her ample breasts, and her flawless face. With his index finger, he placed it on her stomach and slowly traced the outline of her body. Upon touching her breast, he noticed the way she blushed and broke eye contact. A moment seemed to pass with his finger pressed to the bottom of one of her breasts, the silent room only highlighting the audible sound of Alexonia breathing becoming more pronounced. Her lips were slightly opened, letting more air enter her mouth. With deliberate pressure, his finger pressed into her breast and went upwards. Reaching her nipple, Han noticed how hard it became and could be even seen through the fabric. Slowly bending his finger so her hard nipple was resting on top of his finger, he placed his thumb on top and gently kneaded it. He enjoyed hearing how she sharply breathed in as she felt the sensation. Moving his hand, He gently pulled it towards him and yanked on her nipple. From the way her eyes slightly lost focus and the corner of her lips moved upwards, he knew that she was getting aroused, causing him to smile slightly. I will think of your words as just a slip of the tongue and forget about you calling me your master, he whispered to her so that no one could hear but them. I am unsure you fully grasp what you would be committing to by calling me by such a title. Master, I already think of myself as yours. Who else can I belong to, aside from you? Everything of me is yours to do as you will, she breathed out. Her voice seemed to beg him. Leaning forward, Han whispered into her ear, What will become of your daughter? With the help of the advisors, she will begin to take more responsibilities and slowly assist with day-to-day decisions. Being by your side, I will descend from my position. With your guidance, one of my children will ascend the throne and take my place. Her voice rose when he let go of her nipple. When he used the back of his fingers to feel the exposed part of her breast, her voice sounded calmer as she seemed to enjoy the feeling of his skin against hers. I will give you one more chance to walk away from this. His words were softly spoken. I am firm in my decision, she said to him. Deciding he wasn't going to tease her any further, he looked at her and said, Join the others. From this day forth, you will stand among my creations. After this, you will go through the process to be reborn as one of my creations. Pausing, he looked at Ellie and asked, How do you feel about this? Ellie bowed her head and said, Your Highness, I respect my mother's decision and stand by her. I will help to rebuild your kingdom into something worthy of your care and protection. Looking up, she smiled at him to let him know that she still considered him a friend. She would likely continue to speak casually to him when they were not in official roles. Nodding his head, he went back up to his throne and sat down. Glancing over to Helania, her expression seemed to express that this was all natural and was meant to happen. A part of him imagined that Helania dreamed of him ruling this entire world. He sighed and looked at everyone. To mark this day as a special one, Felicitas will have a celebration to welcome my new vassal state. Everyone in the room began to clap their hands, each one of them looking happy about the union. Helania turned to him and said, Master, I will have the chefs and waitresses prepare a grand feast to offer to the residents. Han nodded his head and watched as everyone began to walk out of the room. There was a gently hissing noise as 3 long metallic capsules rose out of the ground. His eyes glanced over to the 3 remaining women, Alexonia and the 2 demon women. Lifting his hand, he showed 3 pills and motioned them over. I look forward to seeing what the 3 of you will look after receiving my gift, he said, and grinned as the 3 women obediently walked over to him.